You're listening to For the Republic, a love letter to Star Wars animation.
Hello there.
Hello, everyone, and welcome back to For the Republic, a love letter to Star Wars animation. Although, again, this is one of those weeks where love letter, it hurts because I don't feel much love for the animation department right now after what they just did to us.
I mean, we should have known that there was like some pain coming because the Kiners, their Twitter account, tweeted out that redacted image of the Toy Story 3 ending, which, as we all know, is like it's guaranteed to emotionally destroy you. So we should have figured there was some form of pain coming, and sure enough, we got pain.
Yep, we are here to talk about the two-part Bad Batch episode we got this week, Identity Crisis and Point of No Return. We, last week, were like, okay, I gotta imagine we're gonna get something more with Hemlock soon, something more with Tantiss. And oh boy, did we. And Ventress warned us last week that they aren't safe on Pabu. And oh boy, are they not. So Andrew and Donovan back here once again. We are just going to be getting straight into the episodes this week. Real quickly, I just want to point out, because there are 2 episodes dropping this week. If you missed our coverage of last week's episode, The Return of Ventress, we had on Katrina Dennis, a.k.a. the world's biggest Ventress voice out there. You can check that out. The episode's doing really well right now, and it was amazing to have them on the show with us talking about Ventress. You can check that episode out. That's also the reason why we're just going to be jumping right into the episode. There's no archives this week because the poll from last episode is still up, so you can vote for our nominees there, including the world's most cursed ship name in the world for Crosshair and Ventress.
Order fans, rise up, please. Save us from the
save us from Astaire. Save us from Astaire, please.
I don't want the ass hairs getting nominated to the Jedi archives. It's not proper.
Nope.
I don't believe in the legitimacy of ass hair anyway.
We can't have that. This is also a bit different for us because normally we will record, at least for this season, the way we've been doing it is we've been recording our Bad Batch recaps usually on a Thursday or Friday, and then if we have issues, we'll usually do it during the weekend, or if that works best for the booking of the guests, we'll do it during the weekend. But we're recording this on a Wednesday, and in my case, we're recording it about 10 minutes after I finished the episodes. So we have a very, very fresh, very raw thoughts from yours truly this week. For good
listeners,
and for
bad. You are getting like full throttle live emotional reaction, Andrew, for this recap, listeners. Like,
you sure
we're in for a good one for sure. Because
yeah.
Oh boy, there was a lot. There's a lot of feels to get through in these 2 episodes.
The good news is like, for us at least discussing these, is that the first episode we had, it was really powerful emotionally, but it was on the shorter side, and it was more just feelings as opposed to a lot of plot development. So we could talk about it a lot, but obviously the meat of this discussion is going to be the second part, because that's where it starts to hurt so much. But we jump right into things, starting back on Tantiss. This is another episode where we focus almost entirely on what's happening on Tantiss, which means, unlike in the earlier episodes of the season where we were focusing on Crosshair and Omega, we don't get any of the batch in this episode. We just focus on Emerie and Hemlock and a certain returning character. And I thought that was an interesting choice. 10 episodes in, when we have 5 episodes left after this, and this is the last season. But I think they still made it work with what we did, because we got the big developments moving forward of Emerie taking over for Nalase as the head of development of Project Necromancer, the head scientist. And then we also got to know what's in the vault. But we actually start off on this planet. We get introduced immediately to this cute little baby who chucks something at this vendor with the Force. And immediately, this goddamn Aqualish vendor rats them out to the bounty hunters because, we're looking for the M count bounty. And
I mean, Aqualish, they kind of deserve a place alongside Quarrens for like least trustworthy Star Wars alien species. Unless, you know, in terms of Quarrens, we're talking like Chancellor Mollo from High Republic Phase 2, in which he's a pretty stand-up guy. But otherwise, like Quarrens and Aqualish, you can't trust him as far as you can throw him in, for the most part.
especially
And that was
in,
a real...
especially
Sorry,
an
you go.
Aqualish voice. I was just going to say, especially an Aqualish voice by D. Bradley Baker, too.
Yeah,
immediate sus vibes.
D. Bradley Baker is so good at like doing these kind of sneaky, snarly type of like alien roles. Like, you know, he's got so many of those different types of like little bit parts that he does throughout like Clone Wars and this, like, you know, whether it's that like one, I blanked on the species name. That one dude who tortures Obi-Wan briefly during the Obi-Wan undercover arc. There's all these kind of like little characters he does, and this is another winner in terms of
even
like
very recently having him voice when we watched the Holocron heist episode, having him voice the fallen Jedi that Bane killed, and then the changeling takes over for her. Yep.
Speaking of Holocron heist, it's a good thing we watched Holocron heist. We did Holocron heist on the recaps before this because it seems it seems they were kind of echoing that a little bit here. Can't imagine what the through line was.
Well, there's two. There is not only the search for Force sensitive children, but also our boy in the cowboy hat is back. Not Dave Filoni, but Cad Bane. And I think he's got a new outfit. Maybe it's the same one he had in season 1, but it looked a bit different to me.
I think it's the same one. I think it might just be that the animation's just a little sharper.
A little sharper, and it's been 2 years since those episodes came out.
Yeah, and the lighting was like a little bit different because it was more shadowy because it's like night. It was a really well done sequence, I might add. Like obviously we're jumping a bit, but like I loved the progression of like how we went from that, as you said, that market scene with that young mother and her child, and just the natural progression of like the child, like the minute the child threw the fruit, we knew that the child had the Force. And it was just really interesting that we got like little snapshots of the different residents, how they reacted differently. Like there was that one alien who I don't think we've seen another member of that species since the Clone Cadets episode, where with the bounty hunter who babysat Domino Squad and was voiced by Nolan North. That's the first time I think we've seen another alien like that. But anyway, you had like that alien basically reacting, or like, she, you know, like very unaware of like how the galaxy is viewing Force sensitives and their partner hushing them. But like, yeah, as you said, the damage is done, and the Aqualish, you know, vendor gets wind of the child being Force sensitive and immediately rats them out to the bounty hunters.
Yeah, absolutely. And we also got Toto back, which was nice because I thought he was kind of done after Bad Batch season 1. But every time we think he's dead, he gets rebuilt, and he's back here. But the tenseness of when we see the mother and the child, who are both voiced by Shelby Young, by the way. She posted that on Twitter. So shout out Shelby Young. But as they're like in their house together, and you see the shadow of and hear his footsteps like underneath their door, the tension there was just great. And then immediately Bane shows up, stuns the mother, and they just take the child. And it was just disturbing. Like, these 2 episodes are very bleak. There's very few moments of levity and just like lightheartedness in this episode.
Yeah.
In these episodes, there's really only one like haha moment, which was when Omega and Crosshair are looking up and they see Hunter hanging off the one ship in the sky. Is like, is that Hunter? And Crosshair's like, yep. And even
that is And even that is like kind of setting the audience up for like a reversal, because we all think we know how that we know how that's going to go, that it's going to be like a rollicking hell yeah action sequence, and instead it very quickly turns in a very kind of like Last Jedi Empire Strikes Back kind of way. They pull the rug out from under you. But yeah, that sequence with Bane was very, very creepy. Like the way you heard the spurs and like his shadow under the door, and then him coming in. Like, he's really one of the only characters you could kind of use to explore this idea of bounty hunters delivering force sensitive children to the Empire, because a lot, like, the thing with the bounty hunters that makes them sort of tricky, I suppose, to write, morally speaking, is that generally a lot of them are very colorful, and we like them, and we like them to keep kind of showing up. So it's hard to kind of code any of them as like evil, especially. But Bane is like the one exception to that rule, because he is so like morally vacant. He can be the guy you bring in to do the kind of like stuff that would otherwise render it, like, as if it was Fennec, as we said, or Boba or Dengar or Bosk, any of those guys. Like, sure, they've done some nasty stuff, but like, we kind of like them in a way that we don't quite with Cad Bane. There's always that underlying feeling that he's a villain, so it works having him be the one to like kind of do this. You could only really explore this kind of like very dark and unsettling storyline with Cad Bane.
Yeah, no, definitely. He's like the perfect bounty hunter for this type of story. One, because we've seen him do stuff like this before in the Clone Wars. And two, like you said, if it was Fennec or something, I mean, it would feel a bit out of character, especially because of the times we've seen her help Omega, as recently as last episode with the Ventress stuff. So it wouldn't have worked. And even if it was like, Bosk or someone like that, the fact that Bane had so many episodes working very closely off Jedi in the Clone Wars really helps. And the fact that we know that he'll take on literally anything is like, all right, where's my payment?
Yeah,
like
literally said, I'll take on any job for the right price. He was kind of like a bit like sullen, almost like a bit mopey when he entered the door, like very kind of low energy. And I thought about it for a minute, and then I realized, oh yeah, that's because there's no Jedi anymore to like come in and chase him, so he can like wait dramatically by the window and then jet away like the dramatic bitch that he is.
The first 5 minutes of this episode were like, what if Children of the Force happened, but there were no Jedi to help? It would just boom, 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 no resistance, they're gone. But back on Tantiss, we see more and more of, I guess, the inner workings of Project Necromancer revealed yet. We don't directly have Hemlock looking in the camera yet and saying, this is to help clone the Emperor, Palpatine, that guy, help clone. This is directing to the sequels, even though you all thought we were retconning them for some reason, but we're not doing that.
For more information, check out The Rise of Skywalker, now streaming on Disney+.
Exactly. But we actually see the vault containing more Force-sensitive children. And one, immediately, 3 just all-time adorable designs. And I love that they're varied in alien species. We get a Sicey Tin, we get a Miri Allen, and we get a Pantoran, who doesn't have any lines, but she's still just so sad, but also just like, she's immediately going to be someone's glup shitto already. I can already tell. But immediately, Hemlock is like, don't make any attachments with the specimens. The wording there, they keep using the term specimen or the specimen to refer to these children, with Scorch and Hemlock saying it repeatedly. And it's just, ugh. But this is just a big moment of how we saw Emerie have those moments of empathy and kindness in the first 3 episodes, where she started connecting with Omega. And we see that here with Eva, who is the one I mentioned is the same species as Sacey Tin. I don't know the name of the species off the top of my head, so I'm just going to call her that. And again, it's like she's not fully there yet, but she's... I can tell this is going to lead to a big moment where she either helps Omega escape at the very end, or she turns on Hemlock. The thing I've been fearing is that she turns on Hemlock, and then Hemlock immediately pulls the Pride with Hux in Rise of Skywalker.
Yeah. Very
But
kind of like Iron Man 3 type thing with Rebecca
yeah,
Hall's character and Guy Pearce. Spoilers for that movie.
it's
By the
11
way,
years old at this point.
yeah, like by the way, so that alien child you're talking about is an Iktotchi.
Okay.
An Iktotch, that's the species Sassitin is. Thank you very much, Wikipedia. But yeah, the writers keep finding new ways to make Hemlock a creepy bastard, like just to make him a little creepier every week.
Yep.
On this show, they just keep finding new ways to like just show how, like, again, kind of like with Cad Bane, how morally vacant this man is, how he is just very well, yeah, no, he's a nasty guy, basically. Yeah,
Yeah.
he's very unsettling, and I feel like only with a character like that could you draw some emotion out of a character who's as restrained as Emerie Carr is, because it was fascinating to watch that episode and see, like, for such a seemingly emotionless character, the moments when she does show emotion are like feel really big. Like these tiny little flickers actually like feel practically like massive raging fires, like compared to like the emotionless stretches of the episode. So it's a very interesting performance, and Keisha Castle Hughes is very good at like finding those little sparks of emotion and kind of digging into them when they're needed.
No, definitely. She's really, really good at that, and she's just great at like she's the definition of a character. Like she's just like what Crosshair was last season, where we're like, come on, just turn already. Like we're at that point with Emerie, but like we're not quite there yet. Like I guarantee you, she took this job for a reason, and we see her hesitating several times and being like, oh, this is when they get the baby from the beginning of the episode back to Tantiss. She's like, this is a much younger child than I was expecting, and I was hoping that something would happen where she would pull a Nala and be like, kid's not compatible with the M count thing. I'm like, send the kid off to safety. But no, she still brings the kid to Tantiss, but she's like, I don't like this. But it's like, all right, girlie, just do something.
And I think that is why the title Identity Crisis really is fitting for an episode that's centered on Emerie, because we theorized in the last episode about whether this episode would have to do with CX2, the clone assassin who's been proving very difficult to kill and has been tailing the batch constantly.
I want them to kill him.
Yeah, well, exactly, because Andrew's theory, of course, like for anyone just listening now, is that CX2 is going to turn out to be a clone of Crosshair. I have another theory about that, but we'll get to that when we cover the second episode. But I really liked how this episode was kind of exploring Emerie's kind of Stockholm syndrome in a way. Like, she knows that, like, she has moral objections to a lot of what's going on, but she almost feels like almost kind of like not wedded, but like just very much emotionally joined to the setting of Tantiss and Hemlock, because it's all she's known for so long. It's really hard to like break free of that kind of conditioning and that kind of feeling that there's like no other way out, no other way of survival other than to like serve under Hemlock and basically just do whatever is required of the Empire. And it's, as you said, it's a very, very bleak episode because it's exploring some very kind of like very kind of ideas that are ingrained in fascism, because at the heart of a lot of like fascist societies is this very kind of like selfish desire to propagate oneself, often at the expense of people you consider minorities or lesser than you, and especially the next generation. And that's something that's Star Wars has very much excelled at. It's been very, it's always it's why it's a cyclical narrative. It's why the three trilogies focus on different generations, because there's this constant idea of hope for the future, hope for the next generation, inheriting the mantle of their predecessors and carrying things forward and making things better. Whereas the Empire is not concerned about that at all, and that's kind of part of what makes it evil, is that it will step over the next generation to just keep itself in power. Like literally the whole plot here is all built around trying to keep the wrinkly old bastard on the throne alive for a bit longer. That's his ultimate goal here. He just wants to live longer. He doesn't have any designs for the future beyond his own like extended life, and
No,
it makes what's
Palpatine,
happening.
the Empire is just himself.
Exactly. Yeah, it's just an extension of himself, the ultimate like narcissist, whose narcissism is like just too big, like too big to be contained by the galaxy, and until he's finally snuffed out. It's just really, yeah, it's really interesting to kind of like explore just how grim some of the Empire's tactics are, because we don't see anything especially grim like in terms of violence. It's mainly the psychological kind of like thing of seeing these kids like held in these cells, seeing that one child, like the Miri Island child, like try to
Jax.
escape, and it's
And he
Jax,
literally
yeah.
gets stunned by Scorch.
I
Like,
know
that
was a hard
was
moment to watch.
very hard to watch.
That's a child.
I was very worried that even though he was like, set your blasters to stun, I was very worried one of the clones was going to shoot him dead in that scene. That might have been a bit too dark. And I know like they need to keep the kids alive for these M-count experiments, but
the Obi-Wan show literally showed Vader like snapping a kid's neck. So like, you kind of just when you think Star Wars isn't gonna like go somewhere dark, they go there. Like it was very much on the cards, and it's what made that sequence quite gripping, because you think Jax might make a more concerted escape attempt, and it's really sad because like he memorizes the lock, but the moment he tries to escape, he just kind of reveals that he is like a very desperate kid just trying to get out of there. And as much as he's trying, he's just not equipped to get out of here. The Empire's too smart for him compared to like Omega, and it kind of helps to show Omega's tactical mind and how and why her escape was just so incredible a feat, really, because you know,
it also
not every kid.
I was just gonna say, it also shows that the Empire has kind of taken the extra steps to make sure that no one uses that data pad to escape again, because they catch on right away. He grabs it, everything's locked already, and then boom, that poor kid's done. So yeah. And then there's that really sad moment where Eva comes up to Emerie and is like, is he gonna be okay? Like where is he? It's like, oh, he's in his room, you can see him tomorrow. And then the next day Emerie is like, where's whatever his specimen number is, and Scorch, oh, it's protocol that it was the med droid or the nanny droid, as it's credited. It's like, it's protocol that they need to be in isolation for 2 rotations, and you can just tell how betrayed and hurt Eva is by that. Like, oh, you lied to me. And the episode just kind of ends on that. Like, it's a very somber moment, but we do get that bit of levity at the end where Emerie does give the makeshift Lula that Omega made in the premiere episode to Eva. And that was a sweet moment for someone that we're still not fully sold on yet. But like, the fact that she is Omega's sister gives me hope that maybe she will end up with the batch at the end of the season. But I don't know. I'm feeling very bleak right now. I'm also like, I have a it's kind of a crack ship theory, but like there could also be some levity to it, because Hemlock we see is this just like chilling bastard, and like anything to get this project and to lead to his success and to make sure that this project continues. Do you think he has maybe, I can't tell if he has just a bit of a soft spot for Emerie and he's letting her do all this, or if it's just part of his tactics to keep her controlled? Because it's like, oh, I want to be the chief scientist. Like, maybe. Yeah, okay, why not? You can do it. And then it's like, oh, I want to go with Scorch and meet the child. It's like, nope, that won't be needed. It's like, please. It's like, all right, fine, you can go. Like, do whatever you want.
I think it's the latter option. I do think I don't think Hemlock is capable of that kind of like connection. I feel like it's part of what makes him so chilling, is that, you know, he's all about exercising control over people, and Emerie he has a lot of control over. You know, she kind of like wants the position. She asked for the position, like you said, and Hemlock gives it to her only after she kind of like almost pleads for it and says that, oh, you know, I've been loyal this whole time. Almost like he's trying to get her to reinforce her loyalty constantly. It's kind of like a weird psychological tactic. And that makes more sense to me because Hemlock is, as I said, is someone who just delights in psychologically controlling his test subjects. He sees everyone as kind of like a test subject in a way to like be broken down and experimented on, as if they're all just like blood samples and stuff. And it's what makes his interactions with Emerie, well, with anyone really, just very uncomfortable. Like he's almost like eyeing them up like they're not even people, like they are just like
we know that's
pieces
the
of meat
case
and blood
with the children. The fact that all these specimens, they're science experiments, nothing more.
Ultimate
Don't make emotional
disassociation
attachment to them. It's like, yeah, they're not people to him. They're just test subjects so that we can make these clones of the Emperor. It's gross. Speaking of uncomfortable, though, I was very off-put by, for no reason in particular, but very off-put by the combo between Nalase and Emerie. Something about Nalase still not dropping her like cadence, even though she's imprisoned. It just makes
that weird sing-song voice that
like,
Gwendolyn Yo
I
has.
to do anything to protect Omega, and it's like, but there's children there. It's like I did everything I could. I'm like, did you though? Did you? Like you're still not off the hook here, girly.
Yeah. Kudos to you for like throwing like Omega's test samples in the trash for like months on end, but like you are still experimenting on all these children.
I haven't forgiven you for 5
Yes,
yet.
granted. Exactly. Yeah. No, she's and I'll say has got a lot to answer for that arc that we will get to in 5 years. Probably.
5 years. Yep. Stop releasing shows, Lucasfilm.
Come on. We need to catch up on our Clone Wars backlog. Come on, give us a chance. But speaking of like blood and like all this talk of the experiments, we finally have got an explanation for just what the Empire wants Omega for, and all these children with the high M count. And it's kind of interesting. I think Alex from Star Wars Explained has absolutely cracked this a while back, and he said that like he theorized that Omega's blood was able to kind of bind the midichlorians. So when you like, if you put Omega's blood in a clone body, that clone will retain its. And if it's like a clone of a force sensitive person like Palpatine, they'll be able to retain a midichlorian count in their body, and that is kind of like that. This one reveal, it makes so much sense as to why this is pivotal to the entire saga and why it's going to make like, because obviously we know, based on what goes down in The Rise of Skywalker and what Palpatine's plot is concerning Rey, that this ultimately is not going to happen. Like Omega's blood is not going to get utilized for Palpatine somehow, whether it's the Batch, whether it's Emerie Carr or like Rex or Echo or whoever. It's most likely going to be the clones, but yeah. However it goes down, these blood samples will get destroyed. Project Necromancer will get crippled, and they will still be trying to solve this decades later. So it's going to be really cool to see how it plays out. But I just love that the clone troopers, these people who Palpatine manipulated, he's been interfering in their creation since, kind of similar to like with Anakin, like almost their whole lives, and basically used them as nothing more but pawns to overthrow the Jedi. He took the thing that the series had been building a thesis around, their individuality, he took that away from them and used them like droids, basically, to turn the Republic into the Empire. So there's something beautiful about the idea that these clones are going to be the ones that cripple his cloning program, that his ultimate plan to propagate himself forever throughout the galaxy. There's just something kind of like lovely about that, thematically speaking, for the entire saga.
I really hope so. My biggest, I guess, concern for the show after watching these episodes, especially after watching this one, which it was good, but again, it didn't move much of the plot forward. Like we got some, but not all. I felt we could have used at least one more big moment. Like if, say, the CX2 reveal happened in one of these episodes, and we didn't say that for another week, because I'm getting worried that we're running out of time. We only have 4 episodes left after this, and I'm worried that a lot of the things we feel should happen this season, they're just not going to get to. And I don't know what that's going to be, like, because we need the Clone Rebellion stuff. We need more direct answers to Necromancer. We need who is CX2. We need Omega's future. We need a bunch of different things, and we need to check back in with Rex and Echo, which I'm sure we'll get next week. But
Yeah.
I'm just worried that one of these moments is either going to get rushed over or we're just not going to get the answer.
Yeah.
And I hope I'm wrong, but like I feel like for a lot of this show, not just this season, but the entirety of the time we've been doing our recaps, I've been like, we got to get to this moment soon, right? And I'm worried that that's just for one of these plot points, we're not going to get to it. And
there is a big risk of that for sure. Yeah.
Which, like, I love the fact that we've had now 3 multi-episode weeks for this show, but assuming that the final episode is just a regular episode length and it's not like how the first episode was almost an hour and a half long. It's not like double length, which would be nice, but we haven't heard anything that that's going to be the case. So assuming we just have 4 regular episodes left, I'm like, you gotta really, like, from this point onward, it's gotta be pedal fully on the gas by this point, which this season has been really good at pacing, where even if we have a more somber episode, it fits well with the story. This was another one of those moments, but I'm like, this is where I'm like, that extra episode that the first 2 seasons have could really be used in this season. I'm hoping I'm wrong. I'm hoping that they knock everything out of the park, because I have enjoyed the season tremendously. But I was just thinking it midway through Point of No Return, like, oh, maybe I just had a bad day. But I was like, we got a lot we still got to cover, and we only have 4 episodes left. But
like, we can only really dedicate 1 episode to like the batch finally discovering how to get to Tantiss, really, because like I have a theory about how they might figure that out, but there's a lot to get done in 4 episodes. I do trust that this team can manage to stick the landing for most of it, but hopefully, if there's anything that winds up being underserved, I'm hoping it's elements that we'll be able to transfer into whatever animated show they're doing next, whether it's like a Clone Rebellion show or a story about the hidden path. That would make some sense.
One of the things before you move on, one of the things I think we are going to have to sacrifice that we've been thinking ever since he showed up is, I think the chances of all of Delta Squadron showing up are, I think it's 0 at this point.
Yeah, I wouldn't be surprised if Scorch just gets outright killed by the end of this. They're kind of throwing him under the...
We were thinking that, they have to at some point, because I think when Brad Rowell and Jennifer Corbett talk about Scorch showing up, it's like, we did everything for a reason. So we're like, okay, they got to show back up. But I don't know. That was one of the things where I was like, we have 4 episodes left. It would feel weird to introduce a whole new group of characters this late into the season.
It's possible.
Maybe next series.
Yeah, because like the thing with Scorch is, I've heard some people say that Scorch is kind of the fun one, because I have only got so much experience with Republic Commando, but I know apparently from the novels, he is the fun one. His personality is very different here, so it's either that he has been kind of brainwashed by Order 66, or he's like a prototype for the CX clone trooper brainwashing.
It's really fun in this show, that's for certain.
Because he's kind of like, he's not very kind of like just very straight as a pole, really. Here, no real kind of like personality beyond just being kind of like a strict rule follower, which kind of clashes with like his Legends portrayal. But hey, maybe they went with like a different kind of like vibe for him. But yeah, given that he's just okay with like stunning children and kind of referring to them as like specimens and stuff, it does cast him in a very negative light. And unless they kind of say that he's being brainwashed, I wouldn't be surprised if he just gets outright killed in the finale. Like one of the batch has to like take him down. But it is possible, like you said, that they could be saving that kind of like stuff for the Clone Rebellion. Like maybe he gets saved since he is one of the clones, and he gets like unbrainwashed, he gets his chip taken out, and maybe we go on to find the rest of Delta Squad and find out what they've been doing. Because, we found Rex, Gregor, and Wolf in Rebels just hanging out on an ATTE. So who knows what Delta Squad have been getting up to? They're quite tough. They made it through like a whole like video game, like just the four of them. So I think they'll be out there somewhere, maybe.
Yeah, I hope so. But yeah, I just wanted to get that point out real quick because I did really enjoy these episodes, but I did have that thought while watching these episodes of, oh, we might not get to certain things in this series that we thought we were going to. So I just want to get that. But the point you were going to make before I went on this tangent, you can go right ahead.
So like I had you kind of like reminded me of like a theory. You kind of gave me an idea about what could be in the vats, because we were talking about like Palpatine making clones and stuff, and obviously there's a lot of theories about Snoke still, how Snoke's going to be created. It's very possible. I don't think this character is going to make the transition from Legends to canon, but it is very possible that the person who's been like in the cloning vats is actually Jorah Sabath from Heir to the Empire, because I think they could maybe put that character into like canon. It kind of would make sense, really, because like it would make sense that Palpatine might want to test the process on a unstable Jedi who could channel the dark side like Jorus. And it would be kind of cool to like sort of recanonize Outbound Flight and some elements of Heir to the Empire, given that that's kind of what Dave Filoni seems to be heading towards in his Star Wars movie that's impending. But it could be Snoke instead. Snoke could actually wind up just playing a Jorah Sabath role, or potentially more of like my theory about Snoke, my headcanon, it was that he appeared as like a seeming ally, and then Luke just sniffed him out. Similar to Anakin, but the difference is he actually like just cast Snoke out himself. Only Ben didn't believe that. I could see it being either Snoke or Jorah Sabath, basically. But I'm kind of going to go with a Jorah Sabath theory for now.
Yeah, I got nothing at this point. I'm just like probably Sheev. That's my guess. But before we move on to Point of No Return, I just got to point. We did have a Tarkin watch in this episode. He showed up for the first time this season. Basically was like, oh, what are all these funds? And Hemlock was like, oh, it's for this project, very important to the Empire. All right, or to the Emperor. He's like, all right, what is that? Oh, I can't tell you that. Give me the funds. And like it was just very brief, but it was also like threatening to Hemlock. Like, if this doesn't work, you're not safe.
Oh, you better get good results. And I'm sitting there like, how do you know what are good results? You don't know shit about the project.
It fits very well with how we've seen almost like Krennic, but related that Tarkin react to anyone that's kind of another Imperial somewhat going against him. Like we saw with Krennic in Rogue One, where Tarkin's like, right, you may fire at will at the end, and just very well knows Krennic is on Scarif.
Yeah,
and
like
he's
Hemlock,
like, all right, well, there's another one out of the way.
You can practically see in Hemlock's face that he's staring at Tarkin like, I'm not telling you shit. I know you. You're just going to swoop in the minute this thing works and take all the credit, and then like just hang me out to dry.
Tarkin doing the math in his mind of how can I make this my own as soon as I can. Tell me the name of the project so I can take credit for it.
Part of the reason I love to hate Tarkin, because like Tarkin is a great villain, you know, brought so well to life by Peter Cushing, and Stephen Stanton does a great impression of Peter Cushing. His performance has been great across all these shows. But yeah, I love to hate Tarkin. He's such a prick. Like, he's just the perfect like Imperial officer that you love to hate, for sure.
Absolutely. But getting fully into the next episode, we start off, and I'm very worried that we're gonna see an immediate death, because we see Fee, at this fueling station, and here comes CX2, because when Hemlock was talking, he summoned CX2 and said, "We need to find Omega." We got a tip from a Trandoshan who said that there was a pirate who has been in contact with Omega soon. And I was like, Trandoshan. I was like, oh, what does the villain from the Tribe episode have to... Oh, no.
Technically he said he got the information out of the Trandoshan, but yeah, when I heard that, listeners, my immediate thought was, oh no, Andrew's not gonna like that. Not at all.
Why? At least we didn't see her. But like,
it's not even on screen, and Sid is
Omega to be kidnapped Twice!
Sid wasn't even on screen, and she's still screwing things up for the Bad Batch. Like, god damn it.
I hate this character so fucking much. And she wasn't even in the episode. But I was like, again, I was very worried that we were gonna lose Fee here, but he just comes and swoops in, gets the information from her like Navigata pad, and then just leaves. So I'm like, all right, that's it. Cool. We're safe, I guess.
He's a slippery bastard, is CX2, isn't he? Yeah, like he was so quick the way he got in like the ship and immediately kind of like reversed, like found out like the basically her GPS coordinates, like where she'd been and stuff. That was like really tense, and I was like so hoping that Fee would like figure out that he was there. And I did like the bit where she like sort of sensed that someone was there and drew that like very nifty kind of like machete blade that she has. But she was just a little bit too slow and he already had gotten away.
I hope we just get a quick, like maybe 30-second scene next episode where Fee realizes, oh, hold on, how did the Batch find them on Pabu? Sid goes to Ord Mantell. That's it.
Like,
that's all I need. Yep.
Like skins Sid with the machete. That's yeah. Like, that's another.
I'm gonna pitch that to Jennifer Corbett and see if I can make it work.
We had warnings these next few episodes were going to be dark, but damn.
Yeah. I'll make it darker. This episode was incredibly bleak. I do, however, because we've talked about CX2. I have a CX2 update for you, Donovan. Here's my thing. Now is because I've seen way more now, like, well, if you look at this shot, like, it's definitely tech. Just the way he's saying these things, like, it's got to be him. So I've seen it a lot, just scrolling through briefly after watching these episodes. And I'm choosing to believe now that it's not tech. And I don't want it to be tech more than ever, because I now think that in the finale, when we see, because after this episode, I think it's happening, and it has to happen, when we see Crosshair kill CX2, that is going to be the most satisfying death in the entire Star Wars franchise. It's beating Lieutenant Nolan, because this motherfucker needs to die. I have another character that I just truly hate with every fiber of my being. This motherfucker will not go away, and he destroyed Pabu, and I can't fucking stand it.
He literally he is such a, as we said, he's such a slippery bastard, and he's so efficient as well. Like, that's the kind of like thing that makes him such a like formidable and frustrating adversary. Like, you know, he got on Pabu literally through the same cave that Ventress's ship landed in. Like, could they not have put some like motion sensors in there?
Like, hey, that just why didn't Batcher sense it this time?
I mean, they were too busy like trying to like pack and get out of there. So I like that they at least were like, you know, we got to get the hell out of here. They at least took Ventress's advice from last episode, but damn, like it's just hilarious that he entered through the same passage. Yeah. I'm still a little bit convinced that it's tech, and it's not by anything that he says necessarily, because I did like I had kind of a back and forth like when he was tracking, he was heading to Pabu, because my immediate thought was, oh, well, it's not tech because he would know where Pabu was because he's been there. But then I kind of like thought back to the previous two-parter, Infiltration and Extraction, where Crosshair kind of gives us the lowdown on the CX clones, and he says that their identities are erased, which I would love if the Empire basically screwed themselves over and erased Tech's mind or suppressed his memories, not realizing that he was the key to leading them to Pabu. But then they didn't need to know that because they had captured Omega at the same time. So of course they would just erase his memories, not thinking that they would need to go back to, they would need to find Pabu and locate Omega again. But yeah, I still think it could be tech. As frustrating as CX2 is, I think it kind of like the emotions of it make sense, and especially now that he and Omega have some alone time by the end of the episode, that he's delivering Omega back to Tantiss. I do think it's possible that we could get like a reveal with Omega, and I could even see Hemlock unmasking, like telling the clone to unmask in front of her, specifically to break her, because that feels like a thing Hemlock would do. Oh, look, I've got your beloved like brother here doing my bidding. I've basically brainwashed him. He's doing everything I ask him to, including like tracking you and the rest of the batch down. I could see that being a kind of tool that Hemlock uses for ultimate like emotional devastation, basically. But yeah, I'm all for like other theories that are like coming about.
God. Yeah, but no, this episode, even before we get the invasion, they go for the gut punches, because when Liana and Omega are kind of saying goodbye, she leaves 2 treasures in their like room. And what do we put? We put Tex goggles and we put Lula. And I'm like,
oh, stop! Like,
thank God they weren't on the Marauder. But
that shows, like, okay, that shows for me that Omega is maturing so much, though, that she is slowly kind of like shedding the kind of like somewhat childlike innocence that she has had. She's been able to kind of like move on into like a new stage of her life. Now she's able to leave these attachments of hers behind, which is kind of like a little nod to the fact that she might be taking the first steps. These are your first steps to embracing her full sensitivity. Like, there's a bit at the end as well that kind of gives me thoughts of that as well. But that was such an emotional moment. I'm also going to shout out Candace Core from the Geeky Waffle for a tweet she made after these episodes aired, calling it Chekhov's goggles, which I kind of feel I have to agree with, because again, that lends something to my tech theory, because they've called attention to the goggles the same episode that this clone assassin shows up. So it's just another little like thing. I also will call out the several tweets that you mentioned before, one of which was pointing out that CX2 says domicile, which, you know, no one but Tech says, no one but Tech says domicile. So I was like, there's still possibilities that it's there, and I
don't want it to be Tech, because I would want Tech to live if it is Tech, but I want this fucker to die.
But that's why it has to be Tech, because you've got it's the perfect like gut punch, and it's why the best reveals in Star Wars are, because it's what made the Vader reveal so great. We hate Darth Vader. Vader killed Obi-Wan. We want Luke to like kick Vader's ass, but then it turns out, oh no, Vader, the evil, horrible, nasty bad guy that we've been following all throughout the films, is Luke's dad, and now we just like Luke have to wrestle with that, and it's the perfect kind of reveal, if this actually pans out, to basically like put us in Omega's shoes, emotionally speaking, because now we've got to wrestle with the fact that this like little slippery bastard of a clone is Tech, like has been Tech the whole time.
This is again, wouldn't have happened. This is twice now, Sid, that you've sent this poor child to Mount Tantiss. And again, this episode does a great job again of not only building the tension, but making me hate this fucker more and more and more, because he swoops in. He's being all sneaky. He sees Crosshair and Hunter through his goggles. He sees Omega's like, target acquired. Sends in Scorch and the troops. And then we see him place, and I thought they were just tracking devices, but then I see that they're detonators on the Marauder as Wrecker and Gonki are hacking. We get a great shot, by the way, of Wrecker just kind of like looking up, seeing it, and then boom, explosion, moving Gonki out of the way. He gets pushed in the water. This might be a horrible mistake, and this might lead to something breaking on camera. But rest in peace to our boy, the Havoc Marauder.
It's so pretty. It's so
I
sweet.
love this ship so much. This Lego set is also just incredible, by the way. It's one of 2 Bad Batch sets they've done, and I'm not buying the Justifier because it's like $180 for some reason. But this one is so good. I'm sorry, my Omega and my Wrecker fell down, so I have to fix that. It's all about collecting here on For the Republic, a love letter to Star Wars animation. But rest in peace to the Marauder. You will be deeply missed. This is now the Star Wars is getting too comfortable with just taking ships out.
If I had a nickel,
the Razor Crest, now it's the Marauder. If I had a nickel, For every fan favorite ship that we call home getting destroyed halfway through a huge season, I'd have 2 nickels, which isn't a lot, but it's
weird
odd
that it
happened
happened twice.
Yeah.
And in the same episode, the lovable child gets kidnapped. Like that's another thing.
Why you keep doing this? I didn't even make that connection.
I just made it now. Like it's crazy. They love their emotional. They love emotionally like devastating episodes like that. The Star Wars people.
Yeah, but we've been like, I feel like every week since the premiere, we're like, all right, well, we know there's shots where Pabu was under siege, so we know it's going to happen at some point. And then they kept hinting at it last week with Ventress, so we're like, yeah, it's probably next week, especially because it's a 2-parter. And then it happens. I'm like, why you do this? Like the thing that we knew was happening, we're like, but why is this happening? And it was just brutal seeing this place that we've like come to call a home for these characters, and we were all really hoping that endgame for this series would be Pabu being a place for these cast-off clones to stay and find home and really like move on from the war. And now we have to look elsewhere because first they just torch the place, they destroy all the ocean skiffs so they can't escape. It destroys their economy. The docks are destroyed. I love that moment when the mayor just gets in CX2's face. Like, who are you? It's like, I'm the mayor of this town, and you're destroying things. And what are you doing here? It's like, until you hand her over, this town will burn. I'm like, I want you to get thrown in the ocean this very second and get eaten up by that squid from last episode. Please and thank you.
Yeah, well, I was really worried he was going to shoot the mayor in that moment.
Oh, I thought it was for sure happening. I was like, don't kill Chef.
Speaking of the mayor, I really enjoyed how they actually brought back the mayor's daughter and explored more of her friendship with Omega. That was a really heartwarming thing because we've seen a little bit of the residents of Pabu, but we've not seen that character since season 2. So that was really nice, and it helped kind of give like more of a personal connection to like the goings on and like just how awful it is seeing this place that we've seen as like a haven, because like it was very clever having a whole episode and subplots centered on this island showing how peaceful it is, and then having this oppression, because as predicted, you feel the Empire's boot on this place when those Republic gunship, though Imperial gunships I should say, are like swooping through the harbor, destroying the skiffs. You feel that. You feel the violation.
What a scene.
Yeah,
when Crosshair was like, ships don't just blow up for no reason. And then you see Hunter slowly look up and you see the Star Destroyer in the air as the gunship swoop in. I'm like, oh my God. Absolutely haunting. That also led to a moment where
the Venator just like looming over the island with the spotlight like flying down. It's like chilling. Like I felt so tense, and it's so clever like how efficient they show the Empire being like taking out the Batch's ship, like also destroying the harbor. Like so like you feel claustrophobic almost because the Batch is stuck on the island. You don't know how they're going to get out of it. I was literally watching the episode going, how the hell are they going to like get off this island and get away? Yep. It's just, you feel the tension. It's easily the tensest episode of the entire season for sure.
This was a lot. This was the episode where we've seen a lot of moments where they've escaped situations in this season and the past season, where like in episode 4, when Crosshair and Omega, they steal that Imperial ship and they get away that way. Can't do that in this episode.
No,
the ending, can't do that in this episode, which I'm sure we'll get into. This episode almost crossed the line. Like, you took my ship. How dare you? And then I thought that they were about to kill Batcher, because Batcher just runs in and she chases down these clones, and then I hear them shooting at the damn dog. I'm like, I swear to God, if we lose Batcher, I'm gonna lose my mind. I
genuinely thought Batcher was going to take a shot for Omega. They had that moment where Batcher was interacting with the villagers of Pabu, and they were being really sweet to her, and I kind of got like a horrible feeling. Oh no, they're not gonna They're not going to do a never-ending story with
No.
Batcher, are they? This would be awful. But thankfully, Batcher's still hanging in there, which is nice.
Yeah.
I've got to mention about Wrecker because and shout him out for being an absolute G before we move on, because he had like second story out to that explosion and he still grabbed Gonki and saved him. I'm so glad he saved Gonki. I was like, I had a second of going, oh no, is Gonki going to get blown up? And then when a Wrecker just grabbed that droid and they got thrown into the ocean, I was so relieved. And it's like, it's a really good example of like doing like kind of, Shane Black would kind of call it like this like constant reversal of action movie storytelling of like, oh yay, they survived. Oh no, but Wrecker's unconscious, so they haven't got their strongest player on hand. Which kind of
find my Gonki minifig, so I can't use prop comedy this time. But no, you're so right. Also, like, this was right in this episode, I had a moment where I like kind of made like I talked something into happening like as soon as it happened, because like this Wrecker stuff happens and I was like, you know what, where are the Clone Cadets? Oh, there they are. Like they literally showed up like right as I said it. I'm like, oh, like they haven't shown up yet. And then Hunter calls them over and they're there in their Hawaiian shirts. I'm like, oh, there they are. But it was nice to see them again and get the reminder that they are in fact still here after the premiere. But now they also can't get off. So like what is gonna happen? But then it just this episode just gets sad, like, and it's not like it wasn't before, but we see Crosser and Omega teaming up, and there's the great like, oh, when Omega gets worried about Batcher and Crosser's like, Batcher can handle herself, like we need to get out of here, we need to be safe, she's safer than we are right now.
He's not wrong.
No, he is not. And Hunter does his thing where he jumps up onto one of the gunships and starts trying to take them out. And CX2 screws him over by literally just shooting his own man. So
that was so ruthless. I kind of loved how just like it was so efficient again of CX2, because it's like Hunter is like, again, it's that reversal of thinking, oh yay, Hunter's doing a badass thing, he's gonna take the ship and that's how they're gonna get off, and we're gonna have this really intense chase sequence. But again, it's very Last Jedi. CX2 just basically goes, yeah, why don't I just shoot the pilot, then you can't get off, you can't get off the island. And it works. That takes Hunter out of commission again for the rest of the episode, because he's just like swimming back there the whole time. I
hate the fact that this episode ends and both Wrecker and Hunter don't know what happened at the very end of the episode. It's like,
that's gonna be some tension.
Yeah. I also will get to something when we get to the end. I hate that I was right about one of the things I said a couple weeks ago. I hate that I was right about it. Because I didn't think the stakes were going to be this high. But, again, though, I'm very glad that we didn't lose Liana or Shep or Batcher for that matter. But, like, I was like, the stakes were high. Like, there were like 4 characters in this episode where I was worried they were going to die. I thought Fee was dead at the beginning of the episode. I thought we were going to lose the mayor. And then last episode, I thought that kid was a goner. And then Batcher. So it's like, I don't know. Like we have fun with Brad Rowell and Jennifer Corbett, like kind of just making us die every week on social media. And the Kiners as well. I don't know how I would have felt if, say, that moment with Wrecker, like if he didn't escape. And that's how we lose Wrecker is in this episode. I mean, the stakes would have been way up. But
yeah,
with how sudden that scene was, if, say, he wasn't just knocked unconscious and he got caught in the explosion, I'd need to have a discussion. Like, it would be bad. But we get a scene where it's like, all right, well, what's going to happen here? Like, what's going to be the solution? And Omega essentially gives herself up. She's like, hold on, I got a plan. I'm going to give myself up. But she's like, oh, none of this would be happening if I wasn't here. This is all my fault. And Hunter has that great line. It's like, it's not your fault. It's the Empire's fault. And that's the last thing he says to her before she's captured again, which is, I'm gonna have that discussion anyways. Brad, Jennifer, we need to have a talk here. But Crosshair's like, it's too risky. It's too risky. She's like, oh no, I'll have my comm on me, and then you guys can track me. We can get to Tantiss, which reminded me of the fact that their goal, Crosshair and Omega, before all this happened, was to get to a gunship so they could contact Echo, because all the comms are blocked. So I'm guessing that's the way that they'll be able to get off Pabu next week, is assuming that the Empire isn't jamming their comms anymore. They'll be able to get Echo and Rex in there and get everyone to safety once they realize that the kid is gone. But Omega's like, oh, just shoot a tracker onto the ship. And in that moment, I was like, oh no. Because I was like, okay, maybe we've had a couple close calls. Maybe they'll get off scot-free, and they'll CX2 will fail again. But I had that deep pit in my stomach where I was like, I don't like where this is going. So she gives herself up. And CX2 takes her, puts the cuffs on her, take her in the ship. Crosshair, he starts lining up his shot, and then these stormtroopers come in, and he takes them all up, and I'm like, oh no. Then he goes to make the shot, misses.
Brutal. It's so like I'd been also like kind of predicting that like Crosshair would miss an important shot like all throughout the season, something that would have consequences, and I wasn't even thinking about that like when that scene came up, because I was enthralled, and then he missed the shot and I just went, no, oh no. And like what's worse is, like as you said earlier, Hunter and Wrecker don't know that he and Omega concocted that plan. So for all they know, he has just let Omega get captured. He failed, which he technically did. But you basically have got like a lot of tension that's going to be hanging between these three brothers for like the next episode, as they presumably try and find Tantiss, because it's
Hunter
like
gets out of the water like as this is happening, and Wrecker's still unconscious. And we don't even get any time to like stick with this, because Crosshair misses, ship goes into hyperspace. We just see him, like the camera just kind of stays in him for a second, and then we're immediately back on the ship, and then the episode just kind of ends with Omega, and she's there, and like you can tell like she has the look on her face like, oh yeah, this plan's gonna work, but also like kind of closes her eyes and has that moment of like, ooh, force sensitivity ? And it's like, oh, she doesn't even know, because she was like, oh, I trust my brother, you're going to make it. And it happened there, because I was saying, like you said, I was very worried that his hand was going to cause him to fail a big mission. And it did. I was thinking it was going to be like, oh, they're doing a heist, and Crosshair misses, and oh, we got a squabble, and then the tensions are up. I didn't think it was going to be this heavy, but man, that's a big way to pay off the tremors in the hand throughout the whole season, which is going to make it so satisfying when he doesn't miss and he takes out that freaking clone bastard at the end of this season. Which
I still think it's going to be Tech, man. I still think it's going to be Tech. I don't know. I think at this point, honestly, I think in terms of emotional reveal of like finding a way to make the reveal of this character's identity interesting, because his identity is very clearly meant to be a big deal.
I think you only have three options now. I think it's Tech,
exactly.
It's Cody, or it's the clone that I've been mentioning.
And I just don't think that Cody, as fun as Cody would be, I just don't think Cody carries the emotional wallop that Tech does.
Cody
it makes it more about
Rex. Cody doesn't have that connection with Omega. So I feel like you're right. Like if it is Cody, you would need to do a bit more explaining, and a bit more like if it's the reveal just to Omega, she can act shocked, but like we haven't seen those two characters interact on screen, so we don't know if that happened with Rex. Of course, it would be all the more sad and tragic
Yeah.
But again,
I mean,
the one
granted,
moment
they could just sorry.
I was just gonna say the two things that made me think it is just a Crosshair clone was the fact that his voice sounded more and more like Crosshair in this episode to me, and the fact he made the shot to the stormtrooper, like that's like Crosshair on steroids to me. Like that's what that was. So I'm like, ooh, or it could.
Yeah.
I don't know.
I feel like there's compelling
worried.
evidence.
I'm worried.
I almost feel like we should do like a separate poll to like see what people
Who
think
is
is like
CX2?
who is CX2? Is it Cody? Is it Cruisehair? Or is it Echo? It's Echo. Oh no, it's not Echo, it's Tech. I completely botched that
I was
up.
like, Echo? I was like, whoa, what a plot twist. Is there an Echo?
Yeah. It's me. I'm Echo.
I'm Echo. I'm CX2.
I just think that you could carry CX2 over into whatever animated show they're doing next. Because if it is a Clone Rebellion show that they're doing next, you could just have CX2 never get revealed in this season and carry him over to that show and reveal him as Cody. Because then there's an emotional confrontation between the villain and the lead where it's like, oh, there's an emotional connection there. Although, granted, they did that with Fallen Order. Trilla wasn't necessarily... Well, she was emotionally connected to Cal, I guess, because she knew his master, so there was more of a kind of like intense connection there. Whereas I feel like Cody just doesn't have the emotional wallop that Tech does in terms of his connection to the various batch members, and especially to Omega. He's never even met Omega, so it kind of feels like, given that Omega is now stuck with this clone, potentially even for like part of an episode, we might see them interact and stuff. I just think it just makes more. It would be more of a gut punch, and so much more in keeping with the way this show works for it to be Tech. That's just what I'm sticking. I've played that card. I'm sticking with it for the rest of the season until I'm proven wrong.
Yep. I hope you're wrong, but I think I just I don't know. I'm scared. It'll also be kind of interesting to see Omega try and do what she's been able to do so naturally, which is just find the best in people and like get them to see good in themselves that they maybe didn't see at first, like what she was able to do with Crosshair. To see that happen with CX2 and for it to not work will be very interesting. Or if it does work, again, would be quite interesting. But
like, imagine CX2 like breaks through the, like, imagine it's Tech, and Tech just does a version of Lieutenant and breaks through the programming and just freaking shoots Hemlock in the chest. That would be an all-time yes like moment for like Bad Batch.
I just think they're gonna need to, like, if it is Tech and they're bringing back, they really need to make it worth it, because the more I think about why it shouldn't be, it's like this season has made his death mean so much more, make it so much more powerful, because like, to compare it to Kanan, I mean, I think Jedi Knight was a stronger episode. I think that was a stronger death that got me more emotionally. But to compare it to Kanan's death, we got to see the Ghost Crew without Kanan, but it was only for a couple episodes in Rebels. And then in Ahsoka, we see the Ghost Crew together, but they're not really together. Zeb isn't in the show. It's just Sabine and Ahsoka on themselves. And then Hera is with Jade.
Jason.
I almost said Jade. I'm like, who the hell is that?
But Jaden Core, star of Jedi Academy. So
there you go. But like, this is like that, but we got a whole season without a core member of the cast. So I think it's actually worked. Like, it's aged tremendously well since his sacrifice at the end of season 2. So if it is just Tech, I'll be like, well, there's another one just gone for, like, I hate the fact that he's gone, but if he's going to be gone, I want it to mean something. And I'm worried that him being CX2 is going to erase that unless they make it mean so much more and they make that payoff at the end of the series incredibly worth it.
And I think I think
But
personally,
again, now
there's
it's
a
like,
way.
I don't want to see him get redeemed. I want him to fucking die. So it's like, I don't know.
I mean, a
don't
lot of
know.
people didn't want to see Darth Vader get redeemed, and
Yeah.
then we got that in Return of the Jedi, and it ruled. So
ruled.
it's all dependent.
So,
I
yeah.
trust the team to do that,
I'm
but I
seeing
think
the good and the bad in it, and
yeah.
I don't
Oh,
know.
me too. They could very
I'm mixed.
easily kind of blow the reveal, and it could just feel forced, and yeah, it could undermine Tech's death. But I think the way that they make this work is they use it as an ultimate payoff of Omega's optimism and her kindness, because that has been her superpower. Essentially, it's been how the Force has manifested through her. Because since we've got like the confirmation that she's Force sensitive, it's been really interesting to kind of look back through the show and see how the Force has manifested through it. And it's been through her kindness. It's been through her intuitive mind, how she's able to kind of look into people and see the good in them and see that character and get a full sense of them and be able to kind of like give them the benefit of the doubt when others would easily write them off. She's done that with plenty of people. She did sometimes people have let her down, like with Sid. Benny briefly did in Bad Batch season 2, the guy voiced by Yuri Lowenthal. But ultimately, her optimism and her kindness has paid off more often than not. And I could see the Bad Batch team trying to go for a Return of the Jedi style conclusion where Omega basically appeals to CX2's better nature and is able to turn him back, like find what glimmers of tech remain in there and potentially turn him against Hemlock. Maybe that's the case, maybe it's not, but either way, I'm really interested to see how those characters are all going to figure into the finale, and how they're even going to like find Tantiss, because like they have no way of tracking it.
I'm very excited to see both Hemlock and CX2 die. Yeah, but it's going to be very interesting to see what the big thing that finally gets them over the hump of, oh, well, here's how they find Tantiss. And maybe it's something that Crosshair has hidden that he hasn't said yet. Or are you going to say?
It's well, okay. I'm gonna like make an educated guess that next week is going to be whatever the mission involving the clone turbo tank is, because we've only got 4 episodes left, so there's only like 2 episodes that can appear in, and it makes sense that that's how they do it. But my theory is that potentially they might get intel from Sid, because there's only if you're listening to this, Andrew has left the building. I have officially caused Andrew fled the battle.
Go on.
I think there is because we all know that Star Wars loves a little bit of redemption, and I do think that when CX2 was talking about getting intel out of Sid, as funny as it's been to like joke about, oh no, Sid like screwed the badge over again, I wouldn't be surprised if CX2 even tortured Sid and threatened Sid with violence if Sid didn't give over the information. And it would make sense for Sid to at least make things right with the batch, and it be kind of like a Western style thing of like, oh, well, we can't forgive you exactly, but at the very least, you've helped us find Omega, so we can at least, we're at least square finally. I could see them kind of doing that
Lieutenant scene with Crosshair at the end of that.
Or like maybe Sid just like tags along in the mission, makes a sacrifice and blows herself up, because I feel like Andrew, I feel like that's the only way Sid could possibly be redeemed in your eyes, like a big fiery redemption.
I'd be like, oh, nice touch.
99, eh? Nice touch.
I need to laugh to get through the pain of this episode.
Yeah. There's a lot. I have no idea how the next 3-4 episodes are going to go.
I don't know where it's going. If I'm being completely honest. But other than you were saying, it's like we have so much we have to get to in 4 episodes, and it's like, but it's also the main thing of, well, how do we get to Tantiss, and then how did they get the clones off there? That is, and then Emerie, where does she play into this? Because I think we're gonna get a couple satisfying moments of her breaking through, and again, because I've seen fan art and I've seen tributes of her in Bad Batch armor, and I would love to see that. I just don't think she's gonna live long enough to be able to do that. But it would be cool if we just got one little moment where that does get to happen, and she gets to help the batch out. But I mean, we were like, oh, it's odd that Omega got off Tantiss so fast. I thought we were going to spend most of the season there. Well, that's why, because she was just going to be thrown right back in there. One thing I guess, just looking for wholesome moments in this. One thing I am looking forward, quote unquote, to about Omega being back there is I want to see her bond with those kids, because we can get something wholesome there, and that's the least we can do, because the first time she was there, we got Batcher out of it. So if we can get these kids to safety too, that would be great. And then hopefully Cad Bane doesn't swoop back in and send them back there. But
just to add on to what you said about Omega, we were hinting at it earlier, but one of the final shots is Omega, kind of like very similar to the episode with Gunji, kind of like centering herself and just like breathing. And yes, it could be that she's just like trying to ground herself ahead of like what's a very scary situation. She's going back to Tantiss, and now the Empire knows that her blood is what they need, so she's in a lot of danger potentially. But it's the scene kind of feels like she's tapping into the Force for the first time, like actually starting to feel it after her training with Ventress. And I kind of feel like we could maybe see a more overt manifestation of the Force through Omega, like through whatever means, really, because she has now seen what the Force looks like when used by a Force, a figure like Ventress, like someone who is able to wield it in such a way where they can they use the more traditional Force moves that we know for like Jedi and Sith. So I could see Omega potentially doing something like that, like doing a Force move of some kind potentially, or just reaching out with the Force to connect with the minds of these kids and maybe even the clones, and help like kind of lead a rebellion on Tantiss, like just to coincide with Hunter and Wrecker and Crosshair and Rex and Echo and whoever else like tags along. I could see them doing that.
I think it would
Hail Mary Sid, because she knows like a bunch of people. If she shows up, she puts them in. She gives them like contact info of a certain bounty hunter, and like Hail Mary pass, Boba Fett shows up and helps storm Mount Tantiss. Because I don't know, Boba Fett, he goes either way. I feel like he could do that. I feel like they could just have Boba say, yeah, sure, Boba Fett will show up and help them. That's doable potentially. We know Daniel Logan is on hand for the voice cast, so it will be very easy to get him involved. But maybe not. Maybe I feel like Boba is a very unlikely kind of thing for the last 4 episodes, but it's possible. Weirder stuff has happened. Like if you told me
weirder stuff has happened.
If you told me Luke Skywalker was going to show up in the final episode of Mando season 2, I would not have believed you, and yet it freaking happened.
Yes, Luke Skywalker. Yeah. No, that's what the cast thought. Yeah, I think it would be super fun if this kind of keeping with the theme that we've seen this whole season. If by like the time the batch gets there to like start the clone uprising on Tantiss, if Omega's just already started and they're like, what the hell's going on? And then
I wanted to blow this place up first. Yeah, that's very inconsiderate of you, Omega.
Yeah, that would be fun. But yeah, no, to the wonderful people behind the Bad Batch, this episode hurt me. So I just want you to know that I will be sending you my therapy bill in the mail. I expect it paid in full by the end of the week. Please and thank you. But yeah, no, we have, unless you have any more last minute theories to share, I think we can wrap things up for the week.
Oh no, yeah, I feel like I very much wrung my theory hat out with this one for
not
sure.
Your Star Wars theory, not that.
Yeah.
No, a Star Wars. It's a Star Wars space theory, but not that
Star Wars space theory. I'm bringing balance to the Force, Andrew. The good kind of theory, not the crappy kind where you talk about like where you hang out with like idiot trolls online. Nah,
were there bricks in this episode? Do you think that would? Yeah. All right.
Well, someone definitely got screwed over. We can say
that's true.
Sadly,
that's true. Yeah. Yeah. I felt like I got hit by a brick watching Crosshair miss that shot. But that's, I think,
The
where we're
tracker
gonna.
certainly fell like a brick.
Yeah, unfortunately, poor Crosshair. I still love you, buddy. That I think is gonna be it for this week's Bad Batch discussion. What did you guys think of the episode? Let us know in the comments down below. We have 4 episodes left of this show, which is hard to believe. Especially because like covering it now, because we weren't doing the show when season 1 was airing, but like covering season 2 and this, it's great. Like this is the first show we've had where we've covered multiple seasons of it as it's airing, and it's crazy that it's almost over, which is, I hate it, but we got a month left, so hope it is tremendous. So yeah, earlier episode this week because I am going to be out of town for the rest of the week. So you'll catch us back here next week for episode, is it 12? Episode 12, our discussion for that. Yes, I think so. I can math. But as for yourself, Donovan, where can the people find you and what have you been up to?
So you can find me on Twitter at Donovan Mead. TikTok, you can find me at Donovan McComish. Instagram at Donovan_McComish. Threads, Donovan_McComish as well. Blue Sky at Donovan McComish. .bsky.social. I am also a question writer for Star Wars Inner Galaxy Epic Confrontations alongside Connor and Eli. It's just always great fun, like watching like various like personalities in Star Wars fandom like come together and like hash it out over trivia. We just had a really exciting matchup come through, and we've got like plenty more like planned. So yeah, definitely check us out if you like to see your favorite Star Wars podcasters like face off with trivia. I am also a writer and executive producer for SWEF, which is Star Wars editor fiction, alongside Connor, friend of the podcast, Jake, Austin, and a bunch of other people that Andrew and I associate with. SWEF is part of sweditor.com, which publishes articles. The site's currently undergoing maintenance. It has been for a while, but we hope to be back up soon. The main hook is, as I said, SWEF, where we publish a series of interconnected short stories and webcomics that try to adhere to what is canon within the Star Wars timeline, whilst also cherry picking and lifting and recontextualizing some elements of Legends continuity if we feel it fits the story. I have written one story that came out in June of 2022. It is called Scars of War. It takes place 5 years after the events of Revenge of the Sith, where a clone trooper named Blister, who deserted the Republic after it became the Empire, finds his peaceful existence on the outer rim world of Kivo interrupted by the arrival of a Jedi survivor of Order 66. So if you like Star Wars and pain, then be sure to give it a read. It was really, yeah.
Not
I mean, maybe like read it next week when like the pain factor has subsided and you've like got like you can brace yourself for like emotional damage.
It's great.
For sure.
I recommend it. Also, I just want to real quickly plug, because you're talking about SWF, because we had Katrina on last week. Go read Ventures Golden, one of their wonderful stories, and read their other Ventures fanfics that they plugged last week. I left a link in the cards for last week's episode, so go give those a read. As for myself, you can find me on Twitter, Instagram, TikTok at Starlight Andrew. You can follow the pod on Twitter at For the Repub Pod, and on Instagram and TikTok at For the Republic Pod. Subscribe to us on YouTube, Spotify, Apple Podcasts, wherever you listen to your podcast. It helps us out a lot. We're getting pretty close to the big 100 over on the YouTube, so go help us out there. Also, I'm going to do something I don't normally do on camera, at least, and that's beg. Guys, Glut Madness is coming up. We have 3 spots left. Please, just do me a favor. Message me a background Star Wars character you love. I need 3 reps. I'm running out of people. We would love to take your recommendations of any like minor background Star Wars character that you will stump for no matter what. I mean, I had to like change my nom last minute because my nom would have been Huyang, but god damn it, they had to go and make him like a regular character. They had to upgrade him to main character status in the Ahsoka show, which is like it comes with it's like a double-edged sword, isn't it? It's like, oh yay, main character.
Can't be in Glut Madness though. What a shame.
No, I know. I'm having a really weird week, so please make my week and help me finish this bracket. So by this time next week, we can have it ready for you and we can have some fun on our social media together. Also, the StarlightJournal.blog, I will hopefully have a new post maybe tomorrow, maybe Friday, going over what I watched in April. And I'm dragging my feet on all the fun big lists that I have working, that I'm working on right now. I just need a couple more days and I'll get to it. Let me enjoy my vacation. So I'm going to go enjoy my vacation. Hope you guys like these episodes. We'll see you back here next week. But until next time, we'll see you guys later. And may the force be with you always.